What if we created a community, an ecosystem in the field of electronics components and systems, to allow researchers and technologists from SMEs, large enterprises, research and technology organizations to network, generate innovative ideas, build consortia, accelerate digital innovation, and turn it into applications which enable sustainable growth. An ecosystem where national funders, the public authorities, can easily see the valuable achievements of the participants for their economies and society. An instrument that catalyzes sustainable digital transformation to create new ways of working and living for all of us. Xccs, a Eureka cluster, is a program for the electronics components and systems community, designed to build international RD&I consortia, help access to funding, and manage collaborative projects with exploitation and growth opportunities for all the partners involved. Driven by industry and harnessing the power of Eureka,
good morning. Welcome to the Xccs Call 2 opening event. I'm Caroline Bedran, the General Director of AENEAS, and I will open this webinar with just a few words of introduction. As you may know, AENEAS is a not-for-profit association with the aim to foster innovation in the field of electronic components and systems, which we will refer to as ECS. The AENEAS community, therefore, represents a huge part of the ECS community, with 480 members actively engaged in the sustainable, green and digital transformation, which is crucial for Europe. Since its creation in 2008, AENEAS' mission is to support collaborative R&D in Europe, mainly focusing on two pillars: Eureka clusters in the field of ECS and the EC joint undertakings, ENIAC, Excel and now Cdti, for key digital technologies. We are also actively engaged in the preparation of the new CHIPS GU, which will replace Cdti once the CHIPS Act comes to life. But let us focus today on Eureka Cluster Xccs. AENEAS has been involved in Eureka clusters for many years, with Katren, Penta, Euripides, and more recently the new Xccs cluster, which we launched a year ago and which we operate from beginning to end, from launching the calls, organizing evaluation of the proposals by experts, discussing funding possibilities with public authorities, then monitoring the projects once they are selected and funded. This is done by the Xccs team of AENEAS, which you will meet in this webinar. Today, we are opening the second Xccs call for proposals. This webinar is intended to inform you about its goals and R&D areas and the support that the Xccs team of the AENEAS office will provide you with. You will be inspired by an example of a success story given by one SME of our community, and you will get highlights of a few public authorities supporting Xccs. Now let me share with you the rules that apply today. First, this workshop is recorded. The record, as well as the presentation, will be available after the event on the Xccs website at the address that you see on that slide. As in other workshops, you can ask questions directly in the chat. We will answer either immediately or at the end during the Q&A session. Please mute yourself and unmute only in the Q&A session at the end, after raising your hand, in case you want to ask a question directly to our team. Nadia Rohrbach, the Xccs director, will guide you during this 1.5 hours. But before handing out to her, Let me first introduce Maurice Geraets from NXP, who is the chairman of the AENEAS Management Committee and will share views on the trends in ECS. Maurice unfortunately cannot join us today, so we recorded him last week as he did not want to miss this event. Let us listen to Maurice now.
Good morning to all of you. It's a real pleasure for me to address you here at this Xccs launch event. My name is Maurice Geraets. I'm Director of NXP Semiconductors in the Netherlands, but today I'm here in the role of my chairman role of the AENEAS community. And many of you, all of you know the AENEAS community. Caroline already explained a little about it, but mainly we focus on addressing the ECS community, electronics, components and systems, because that's what all of us are working on, both from academia, research institutes, but also the industry, and we work of course also with our governmental partners. And our industry is in a quite interesting age. We are on the one hand maturing, on the other hand we see that many of the growth drivers, digitalization, autonomous driving, electric driving, Internet of Everything, Internet of Things, are really accelerating over the past few years. So we have presented all these trends of growth already for many years, but over the last years that has accelerated the demand, and that has led to quite some challenges in our supply chain. At the same moment we see a tendency to work on technological sovereignty in Europe, in the US. We see a lot of investments coming from the European Commission in the CHIPS Act, but also in the US from the CHIPS Act. So we see an enormous drive to accelerate our innovation in Europe, and with the Eureka cooperation we are really able to address that innovation. And with the Eureka cooperation we not only address the European needs and the European strength, but it's a global partnership where many like-minded countries have joined. We are very happy with the role of Canada, but also the role of Korea and many other non-European countries where we cooperate really well. And this Eureka cooperation has quite some advantages. It's quite unique. It's very flexible. Only 2 countries is enough to start a project. It's very flexible also to small and medium enterprises, because the administrative burden is a lot less than many other subsidy mechanisms. And with this flexibility, you can easily work with universities, SMEs, larger corporations. So this is really something that is complementing other, for example, European Commission subsidy instruments. With our jointly developed innovations, we really address the societal challenges we see in the world. We address many of the sustainable development goals. We really address, for example, with electric driving, we make sure that the air pollution is reduced. We address climate change, but also as an example, advanced driver assistance systems in cars make driving safer, because too many lives are lost in traffic, and technology can really support us all in being better drivers. And perhaps in the end that might at some moment in time lead to autonomous driving. And with the Xccs organization we're here to support you. We support you developing proposals, finding partnerships, making sure the proposals are getting the funding that is appropriate for the proposal, and indeed in the end if the projects are really funded, then managing the projects, helping you the reviews and make sure that you smoothly are able to make your innovation a success. So I sincerely hope that today's event will be inspiring for you to start new partnerships, new collaborations across the ECS community, and not only within the large companies, but especially also the SMEs and the research institutes, because together we should really partner to bring innovations on the road, on the market, that address the SDGs and the sustainable goals we all have, and make sure that we, in the end, create a better world. So I would like to wish you a very fruitful day and a lot of success with a lot of new contacts and partnership ideas. Good luck.
Now, let me introduce you Nadia Rohrbach, our Xccs Program Director, who will guide you today. Nadia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Caroline, and also a warm welcome from my side to our webinar launching the second Xccs call. I will give you a brief overview about the cluster and how it works. I will be brief on some of the slides as my colleagues will give you more detailed information, and as the slides will be shared afterwards, you can also read the details after this presentation. So Xccs is a Eureka cluster, and you might be curious to know what is a cluster. So clusters are joint initiatives between public authorities and private organizations, aiming at transnational collaborative projects close to the market. As mentioned already, the cluster Xccs is about the RD&I in the field of electronic components and systems. And this cluster is supported by 3 industry associations, by AENEAS, EPOS, and Insight. We have a lot of experience within AENEAS because we have managed and operated also clusters before, like Katrine, Euripides, and the Penta cluster, and we can really benefit from this direct experience. But also our activities are complementary within the Cdti joint undertaking. What is Eureka? Eureka is the world's biggest public network for international collaboration in RD&I. More than 45 countries are members of Eureka, so you can see it's not focused on Europe, but we have also many partners across the world like Canada, Israel, Singapore, South Africa, and South Korea. This transnational network is an intergovernmental organization, so it's not a funding program itself, but it runs different funding programs. There's also a Eureka website where you can find more information about Eureka. Caroline already mentioned what AENEAS is, so I will not go too much into the detail here, but maybe worth to mention that we have many members, more than 480, and the membership at AENEAS is free of charge, but you will benefit from all what we offer to you, like events, these brokerage events, but also on-site events, etc. Only successful participants who receive funding, they will ask a small contribution based on the funding received. As I mentioned, so we have more than 480 members covering the whole value chain. We have 20 members as board members, as you can see here on this slide. And Kurt Sievers is the president and the CEO of NXP Semiconductors. He is the AENEAS president. The Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda will be presented to you later by my colleague Patrick Coget. This is the basis for all the work within the Xccs and representing the whole value chain. So why should you participate in a Eureka Clusters project? So this is all about transnational RD&I cooperation, and with that you will have also access to the related funding at national level. You will benefit from partnerships across the whole ECS community, and you can create impactful collaborative ecosystems. It will finally boost your own competitiveness, accelerate your growth, and shorten time to market, and you will also have access to new markets. And last but not least, one major advantage also compared to other programs, you will have access to expertise and professional guidance, coaching and mentoring by industrial experts. This is something really unique in the Eureka clusters. How does Xccs work? So you start, of course, with the idea generation, then you can participate in our brokerage events, meet new partners, discuss your project ideas, you build your consortium, and then finally you submit your project outline. At Xccs we have a 2-stage process, so it starts with the project outline, which will be evaluated by our technical experts, but also by the public authorities. You will receive detailed feedback on your project outline in order to improve it and also to raise the chances for funding. After the full project proposal submission, then again we will have a more detailed evaluation also by the national authorities, and they will decide then about the funding, and together with the experts and the cluster office from Xccs we will decide about the labeling. After that you can start with your project once you have received the funding grant agreements. And what happens often in the course of the project is that there happen changes. For whatever reason, you will need another partner, you might go a different path, etc., etc. So this is quite unique and common. So don't worry about that, and we have here a well-established process for the change request. Also for the project monitoring, we follow up your project very closely together with our experts, together with the public authorities, in order to make your project a real success. And then there will be, of course, a final review, and we will also look for the impact of your project at the end. Our call timeline, as you can see here for our second call, is that this today is the launch of the call. Then we will have, end of November, 24th and 25th, the FX brokerage event in Amsterdam. This will be, this time, the main event for you from the Xccs community to meet potential partners, to present your idea, to pitch your projects, etc. So we really encourage you to participate in this brokerage event. On 23rd of February next year, there will be the project outline submission deadline. And 25th of May, it will be the full project proposal submission deadline. We will label the projects June, early July, to enable you to submit your national applications as soon as possible. And then in September, we will have a decision made by the public authorities which projects can be funded. What is a typical project in Xccs? So the numbers you can see here are average numbers. So usually we have 4 to 15 participants. But if you have more participants, it's fine. And it can be partners from all the different organizations, be it SMEs, large companies, RTOs, or universities. We have usually 3 to 5 Eureka member countries involved. The minimum are 2 countries, but we always advise to involve at least 3 countries simply to raise your chance of funding in case one country has to drop out. It covers your project, preferably the whole ECS value chain based on our strategic research and innovation agenda. And the project costs are between 4 and 30 million euros. The duration of a project is maximum 36 months. If you would like to run your project for 28 months only, it is of course possible as well. So this is not the minimum, it's really the maximum. And again, those are averages. I will show you a project example from the Caviar project. As you can see here, there were 9 participants are involved in this project involving SMEs, large companies, and RTOs. And those are coming from 4 different countries, covering different parts of the ECS value chain. And the project costs are about 4.9 million euro. We have several countries supporting Xccs and having a dedicated budget for Xccs available, or in some other countries it is a rather open budget because it's covering all the national funding. And you can see here 23 countries on the slide. If you would like to involve a partner from another country, which is not from those 23, it is not a problem at all. As long as 2 countries are Eureka member countries, you can involve any third country as long as those partners make sure that they either can finance their part on their own or that they will receive funding. So it is really an open network and it is not restricted to the 23 countries shown here on this slide. We have luckily also some good news, like France now is again supporting the Cluster Xccs, and we are very happy about that. You will learn later which funding opportunities you have, but here is specifically also one project which offers grants under certain prerequisites, and again this will be presented to you shortly. Luxembourg also now supports the cluster, and the United Kingdom, they have supported always the cluster, but now they have a dedicated budget of £5 million per call. And Monaco, any partner can be funded from Monaco. So here you can see another project, so I will just go faster with this slide. Again, FX, a good opportunity to meet project partners, and my colleague Scheherazade will tell you more later on this. We have also webinars. You will find all this information on our website. Those are the national webinars, one even today from Sweden, Germany, and Austria. Sorry, the first one should be Austria, but there will more come and more be scheduled, and all the information will be on our website. So this is just to remind you on our call deadlines. You can also follow us on the social media. Thank you very much. And as a next step, so I would like to introduce to you my colleague Patrick Coget, who is the our technical director, and he will give you a more detailed view about the SRIA.
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, Nadia, and welcome and good morning to all participants. So, what are the research and the innovation topics relevant to the Xccs program? Well, the short answer is that those are all the topics which are listed in the Electronics Component and Systems Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, the ECS 3 for short. The latest edition has been released last January. The elaboration of the 3, as you can see on this slide, is the result of a process supported by the 3 industrial associations representing all actors in the ECS value chain, AENEAS, EPOS, and Inside, and the document itself results from the contributions of over 300 experts from across our industry, and when I say industry, it's industry as well as research. And they try to reach a consensus of where ECS technology should be 5, 10, or 15 years from now. And the outcome of this collective work is the basis for several key funding programs supporting transnational research and innovation, and one of those programs being Xccs. The 3 covers, it has already been mentioned, the entire ECS value chain, starting from the materials, the processes, the equipment needed to make micro and nano electronic component, going to integrated device, smart sensors, modules, up to systems and applications. Of course, we should not forget all the ECS engineering tools that allow the development of all these technologies. To go a little bit more into the content of the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, this is a diagram showing the ECS structure. So at the heart of the picture are the technology sections, which are in turn divided into 2 groups. The first group consists of 4 sections describing the foundational technology layers, going from materials and process technologies to components, modules, and their integration into electronic systems, embedded software, and finally to full systems and systems of systems. These are the fundamental elements required to build the digitalization solutions of today and tomorrow. The second group consists of 4 cross-sectional technology sections. In some cases, progress in these areas will require innovation in all layers of the foundational technology stack. For example, artificial intelligence on the edge or 6G connectivity will require new integrated circuits to develop new electronic components with faster, less power-hungry, and more connected modules and entire systems, and will rely on embedded software development leveraging this new hardware. In other cases, it is the progress in the foundational technology layers which will require the development in those cross-sectional technologies. For example, architecture and design methods and tools have to be further developed to provide support to all the foundational layers. This technological view is complemented by the 6 sections covering application domains considered as key for Europe. Here, we start from the application roadmaps, which have been developed by experts of those domains, and we translate them into requirements for future ECS developments. This represents the application pool side of the 3. And last but not least, we have the long-term vision chapter. The topics listed here are not meant to be supported in the short term by the Xccs program, but they are included in the 3 nevertheless, because the industry felt it was important for those topics to be investigated at lower TRL level, for example, funded by Horizon Europe dedicated calls, to ensure that 5 to 10 years from now, they have reached maturity high enough so that the industry can start in turn projects at a higher TRL. That way, we make sure that the innovation pipeline is continuously fed and does not dry up. Since our technologies are in constant evolution, we revise the 3 every year. The 2022 edition is a minor update. Nevertheless, there are some changes in terms of content based on feedback from the ECS community and the EU Commission on specific topics and inputs collected during thematic workshops organized last year, and also updates that were in the pipe. We also had an extension of scope to include quantum technologies, integrated photonics, flexible electronics, and open source hardware. However, the main changes of the 2022 editions are efforts to make it easier to find what is of interest to you in what is, I must confess, a very huge document. Of course, you cannot read the fine print here, but this slide is here to let you know that we have introduced what we call the 3-year outline, which is a 2-page table where the scope of each chapter is summarized. And that way, when reading it, of course with a proper magnification, you can immediately see if one of chapter is of interest to you. That table also describes the synergies between the foundational technologies and the cross-sectional technologies. We have also inserted icons and chapter numbers in the margins when a topic being developed in one chapter is linked to other chapters. And finally, we have created a keyword index with hyperlinks. To illustrate how to use the 3-year and those new navigation tools, I think the best way is to take an example. So let us put ourselves in the shoes of the project leader who would like to propose the development of a collision avoidance system protecting all users with sensors installed at crossroad, not on vehicle, which is the mainstream approach, predicting the trajectory, future trajectory of vehicles based on what he observes with self-learning capabilities and sending warning signals if a danger is detected. The project leader might ask himself 2 questions. Is this project relevant for Xccs? And what are the research topics to be covered? Do I cover them all in my proposal? Then the first entry point in the 3-year would be the outline I presented earlier to you. Here, the project leader will quickly identify that the scope of the mobility chapter section chapter mentions inclusive, safe and secure mobility, for example with smart perception, which is exactly what his project is all about. Going to the table of content, he will identify in that mobility chapter 2 major challenges also linked to this topic. In the outline, he will also see that edge computing and embedded artificial intelligence chapter covers technologies for devices using artificial intelligence at the edge, again, a topic of his project. And finally, browsing the table of content, he will notice in the embedded software and beyond chapter a major challenge on embedded data analytics and artificial intelligence. Another entry point is the keyword index. Here, he will find, for example, the keyword V2X, which stands for Vehicle to Everything Communications. And this will lead him to a paragraph of the mobility chapter where it is said that attention should be paid to the robustness of sensor to environmental conditions. Maybe at the start of his project design, he thought that the sensor he needed were available in the market already. Now he realizes that this is another research topic which he might have to incorporate in the project proposal. Going back to the table of content, he will find a major challenge related to that and should read that content to enrich his proposal. The paragraph in this mobility chapter related to V2X also mentioned to pay attention to malicious interference. Cybersecurity should therefore also be an issue to cover in the project. And going back to the table of contents, this will prompt him to read what the 3A says about ensuring cybersecurity. Finally, since the 3A is available in digital format, the project leader can use plain textures to find some other interesting parts. So, to sum it up, I would like to leave you with this takeaway. The 2022 edition of the 3A is the basis for Xccs Core 2. It covers the whole value chain, and it is designed to help project leaders in the construction of their proposals by identifying which research topics they should consider and ensure that the proposal is relevant within the global industry roadmap. Thank you for your attention, and back to you, Nadia.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for this very useful guidance through the 3A. And I would like to invite now Jochem Herrmann, who is the Chief Scientist and co-founder of Adimec, which is an SME. And Jochem will present to you a success story. Please, Jochem, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the introduction and for inviting me. In the next few minutes, I will tell you a bit more about Adimec, what we do and how we innovate. Briefly show you collaborative R&D projects that we have been working on, and the several funding instruments we used, and share our experience with the funding instruments, and especially the Eureka clusters, to show how well fit they are with our needs. And I will give you at the end also an example of what we achieved. So next slide. So what is Adimec? Adimec is an SME, and we are creating industrial cameras. Our customers are large OEMs and system integrators that develop systems where camera technology is key to deliver functionality, speed, accuracy, and reliability. And we are very much focused on specific applications. So next slide. You see here, well, an overview of many applications that we are active in, but if you play the animation, you can summarize it. Yeah, can you play the animation, please? Yeah, so if you look at and you summarize it, we are in machine vision, where we are active, or our customers are active in manufacturing of semiconductors, electronics, and displays. We are in healthcare, in X-ray, next-gen sequencing, digital pathology, and we are active in global security, for example, cameras for aircrafts, helicopters, drones, vehicles, and so on. So a little bit more about our company on the next slides. So Adimec is a team of, say, more than 150 people today worldwide. Our head office is in Eindhoven. We are making cameras that are a perfect fit with our customers' applications. So they are not general purpose products. We are always customizing it. And also we design then and also manufacture these cameras for long periods. Important to realize that most of our cameras are customer specific. We derive them from camera platforms because otherwise it would be too costly to develop these products. By developing platforms on our own costs, by the way, we are owning our platforms, and we can derive customer specific products, and that's much faster, lower risk and lower cost for everybody. But to be able to keep our customers at the forefront of their markets, innovation is a top priority as Adimec. So how do we innovate? That's the next slide. So typically what we see is most of our camera platforms need innovations on more areas than what Adimec can develop ourselves. So we may need new optics, we need image sensors, we need specific processing or compression, digital interfacing, we may need standards. That means that although a part of these things we do develop ourselves, we need other technologies as well. So for this reason, we prefer to innovate in collaborative R&D projects. In these projects, we cooperate with partners that are experts in their field on all the innovations that are required in the chain. And if possible, we also include in strategic customers. We have been working on several R&D funding instruments. I'll show that in the next slide. But we are, you see it here already. What we like about them is that they stimulate long-term cooperation between partners. They provide, of course, a solid legal framework like cooperation agreement, IP protection, and of course their financial contribution. That's helpful as well, but that's not the only reason. So you see here an overview of many projects, and the top arrow line is showing all the projects we run under the cluster programs of Medea, Katrine, Penta, and now Xccs, of course. So let's take a look at the next slide. Okay, so what are we looking for in funding instruments? Number one, it's funding possibilities, of course, for all the partners that we need, and of course when we need it, and that's not always easy. Our opportunities don't wait for calls, and that can be challenging. It's also important to have a reasonable effort to write a proposal. We like two-stage processes because it helps you to make a very good proposal, but also will give you a no if you find out it's not good. It probably will not be funded. Next one is that we would like to have a predictable or a fair chance of success. Writing proposals takes a lot of time, so you would like to have a reasonable chance of getting the money. And very important is a low overhead during project execution, especially for SMEs. We don't make more documents than we normally would do. So why are the Eureka clusters a good fit? They're industry driven. There's ESRIA, for example. They are a good fit with our short time of markets. They don't need the large consortia that are typical in, for example, Horizon projects. The two-stage application process is helpful. And then the project can be adapted. If new insights develop, we have to be realistic. During the project, you may find out that the technology changes, that the market condition changes, and we need to adapt on that. And very important is the low overhead. Even an SME like we are can be a project coordinator. You don't need an office to run your subsidy projects. But of course, partners are funded by participating countries, and not all the countries support Eureka. So it's not always easy, and there are it's always a challenge to find money for your projects. So next slide. So looking at increasing your chance of success, at least that my experience is, and a few things are already mentioned. Of course, starting with a strong consortium is very important. It should be clear what the contribution of each partner is. Don't have free riders in your project. It will not be helpful. Also check funding possibilities in an early stage for all the potential partners. Contact your public authorities because every country has different rules. And also think about plan B. What if a project or a partner or a country will not be funded? What will happen with your project? So build some plan Bs in there. Also, of course, take a look at the website, look at the documents and templates, look at the project outline and follow it. Really give all the information that's required, refer to ESRIA, and help the people to understand what you are aiming to and how you fit in the project. And then, of course, use the feedback of the reviewers. The two-stage projects really helps you to improve your the final proposal based on your initial feedback. And then finally, of course, if there are any questions, contact the Xccs office. So next slide. So a success story. Looking at where we were in say 10 years ago, we had cameras that needed we had customers that needed cameras with higher resolution, higher speeds. We needed lower power processing. We needed a faster digital interface. So a lot of things that were required but were not available on the markets. So the next slide. So how we approach that is looking at all the innovations needed, finding customers, finding partners that were able to work on that, contributing at their own costs and risks, but working together in the projects. Then we had, for example, the media A6C project, where we worked on a new digital interface, the technologies, and the Katrine project, Triton G, brought all the experts together that were needed. We had Simosis for image sensor design, Ecologic for development of the silicon for the new interface. We had Adimec for the machine vision camera design. And also outside of the project, we had another 6 companies that worked on the specification for a new standard that was needed. And with that, we won the 2009 Vision Award in Stuttgart. And that helped us to really generate a lot of industry interest, and also made that we're able to make a step to the standardization, worldwide standardization of the Co-Express standards. Next slide. So what came out of Triton Z? Of course, for CMOSIS, there was a new image sensor platform plus the first sensor product. Then Ecologic made their high-speed drivers and equalizers for the new interface that they were able to market that. We made a new vision interface standard Co-Express, which is still being developed worldwide now, starting from this project. Then we built everything together into a new platform. And we won the Vision Award 2009. We won the Katrine Innovation Award 2011. And it helped us to be recognized as an innovation market leader. For Adimec, it brought us 20 to 30% year-to-year growth in the machine vision markets. And also for Ecologic, for example, as a startup, they were acquired by Microchip, which was a good thing as well. Okay, next slide. Well, that's basically the end. Finally, I really would like to thank the AENEAS office, the public authorities, for the great support over the years. I'd like to thank you all for your attention. And when you plan to submit a project proposal, good luck.
Thank you very much, Jochem, for this very interesting presentation, and also for sharing with us all your experiences and why it's worthwhile joining an international and collaborative project. You mentioned also a fair success rate, and for Xccs, on average, the success rate is about 35% compared to the projects submitted and to the projects funded, which I think is quite high, and also is, again, a good chance for you to submit an Xccs project. Thank you once again, Jochem. So next I would like to introduce to you my colleague Scheherazade Azizi, who is the Xccs program manager, and she will share with you some information which support we offer in the office, but also how to prepare a successful application. Please, Scheherazade.
Thank you, Nadia, and thank you to Jochen for this very nice testimony. And if you want to follow the success path of Adimec, I would like today to give you some guidelines on how to be successful in your submission. So I would like first to give you some content of what we are going to see in the 10 minutes. So I will show you the project flow of the project outline. I will give you some general information on the submission of a project. And I will highlight also what is very important to know, which has been already highlighted by Jochem or Nadia, to be aware of your audience and how your proposal is going to be evaluated. I will go slightly deeper on how you are going to submit your proposal using our platform. And I will just mention a few words on the next step, because as mentioned, our program is a two-stage call. So in the screen, you can see a lot of boxes, but it has been already quite introduced. We can focus today on the registration, which is the first box, and as mentioned, and I will go a little bit into a description a little bit shorter after this slide. You have the different step on your PO preparation, which is the how to build, in fact, your proposal. And I would like also to really highlight at this stage that this year you will have the opportunity during our FX event, which will happen on the 24th and 25th of November in Amsterdam, to showcase your ideas, to meet partners, but also to meet national funding bodies. So it will be the face-to-face occasion for you to really go deeper and to build your proposal. Then the following steps in this presentation, on the screen, in this slide, has been already underlined by Nadia in her presentation. It's how we are handling in AENEAS the evaluation and the decision of the project outline proposals. As mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, you can see here I strongly encourage you already to start registering in our platform in order to submit and to be more familiar with our tool. So for submitting a proposal, there is two complementary channels for providing your information. You will use directly the Xccs project zone, and you will be able also to upload two different documents at the PO stage. One is what we regularly call the project outline annex, which is describing the core of your project. And you will have also to provide some data in an Excel cost file. So you will know already that the sooner the start, the better, to be familiar with our tool, but also to be able to invite your partners. So I've already underlined it. You have to be very careful and to know for your chances of success who are going to evaluate your proposal. So to be aware of your audience. In AENEAS side, you will have some AENEAS technical expert, which will focus on the international impact of your project. So you have in this slide some highlights that you need to be aware and that you have to bear in mind when you are writing your proposal and also looking for partners. So by extending the state of the art, to have clear goals and objectives mentioned in your proposal, to have, as mentioned by Jochem, a strong consortium, to have also ambition in your project, but you need to highlight that your project is viable with reachable targets to a well-organized project. Of course, as also mentioned by Patrick, this has to be, your proposal has to be relevant for the Xccs area. You have another audience that you have to convince in your proposal. That's your national funding bodies. And it's very crucial that at the beginning, at the start of your project, you contact your national funding bodies to make sure that your project fits into the national criteria. So you will have the possibility to have direct link using our Xccs website to look at the contact of each country which are committed to fund Xccs Call 2. Because you need to match RD&I focus area at national level. You need to address individually and collectively in the project by the partners. You have to have a clear impact, a national clear impact for the national funding bodies, which will give you the support. To go more into detail, but we will be able to reply to you if you have more questions. I would like just to give you, let's say, some tips on and general remarks and guidelines as been mentioned already by Jochem. I've been very pleased to hear that he is underlying that you have to read the guidelines that it's providing in our PO Annex. If you don't understand question or guidance, we are here to help. The office will be very pleased to reply to you and to guide you through your submission and to the construction of your proposal. So here you have just summarizing maybe some obvious but key points that we are experiencing each year. So you have to respect the page limit. Going beyond can be foreseen by the expert as substituting quality by quantity. And don't forget, keep in mind that a picture is worth thousands of words. And of course, check for correctness for our expert to be able to understand your proposal. For the IT system that we are handling, as I underlined already, you have to create your profile quite early stage because you have to invite your partner using our tool, which is crucial after to build your project. It's one tool which is used by our experts, by the public authorities, and by the office, and can help you building your proposal and having one tool that can provide you some support towards your consortium. This tool is user-friendly. You can see at each stage of your progress a checklist which can help you knowing that you can submit your proposal, or if you have missing points, red points that block you during your submission. And I would like to remind you that a deadline, it's a deadline, so you have to bear in mind, as it has been already underlined several times in our webinar, the PO submission deadline will be the 23rd February 2023. And again, we are here to help you to have a successful proposal and submission. And if it is, we hope, the case, as mentioned, it's our program. It's a two-stage program, and it's, I think, personally, an added value for you to be able to enhance your proposal in two stages, because at the end of the PO, you will receive a detailed feedback, which is a consolidated feedback from our AENEAS technical expert, but also from the national public authorities. And we reinforce the message today that you have to take into account these remarks to be able to have a successful full project proposal building and to higher the chances of success to be funding at the end of the call. Then in this slide, I would like to remind you again our deadline, the one of the PO that you may know now, and the FPP will be the 25th of May in case of success of your project outline. Now, last but not least, you will find our contact details. It has been underlined by Jochem that we are flexible and you have a direct contact, so don't hesitate to use these contacts to ask questions. There is no stupid question. We are here to really make a success for your proposal. And I would like to thank you for your attention, and I wish you all the success for this Xccs call to project submission, and I look forward receiving your proposal this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sherazad, for this very important information, and I hope this will also support all you as potential project partners, and I hope to see all of you, of course, submitting projects to smoothly prepare your project outline and submit it finally in February. We will come now to the second part of our webinar, for which we have invited 4 countries to present us their funding possibilities. So this is only a part of all the countries supporting Xccs. I'm very much pleased having France here supporting now Xccs, and Ronan Bourgeois from BPI France will present you the funding possibilities in France. Please, Ronan.
Good morning to everyone. Thank you, Nadia, for the introduction. I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to present to you funding opportunities applicable to French participants for this Xccs call. I've been working for 12 years in BPI France, mainly innovation activities, and I'm currently based in Brussels at our EU liaison office to the EU institutions. Next slide, please. Every day at BPI France, we train, connect, and help finance entrepreneurs from seed phases to the transmission and listing through loans, guarantees, and equity. But today, I will focus about our role as a French innovation agency and as a state operator for various financing schemes, including an action plan for France 2030, France 2030. Next slide, please. So for French participants to your consortium, you will have 2 funding options. 2 funding options at BPI France in setting up and possible assistance in setting up the project in addition to Xecs support. I will focus first on one option, which is eDemo number 2, which is a project call from this France 2030 plan that aims at supporting highly innovative industrial services with added value on growth markets. So one constraint of this IDEMO call is that the minimum project size is 4 million euros total budget for French participants, and the consortium must at least count on one SME or a mid-cap. Another constraint is the composition of the consortium. It cannot have more than 6 participants, French participants. Of course, the consortia can have 6 plus other participants from other countries. But if the consortia has more than 6 French participants, then IDEMO would not be suitable for the funding of this option. So the typical duration of 36 months is compatible with IDEMO, and this scheme finances mainly the company and the RTO through mainly in the form of a grant. On the following slide, I will present more in detail the funding arrangement through IDEMO. But just to say that this is a 2 selection also process, we're bearing in mind that you will have a hearing panel process and a submission via a dedicated extranet that will have to be followed in addition and in parallel to your Xecs application. The follow-up and monitoring will be managed by the Direction de l'Expertise, Expertise Division at BPI France. We have another scheme to finance French participants to Xecs call, which is the Aide à l'Innovation. For this call, you will have no minimum budget to present, but the consortium needs at least to have 1 French company, a branch established in France, with a maximum company size of 2,000 annual working units, full-time employee time, and the maximum project duration is 36 months. With the Aide à l'Innovation, you can be financed up to 3 million euros. This is the maximum funding available for a French participant under Aide à l'Innovation. And these funding schemes is under 2 types of funding: repayable advance in case of success, or a soft loan if your work is closer to the market. And with Aide à l'Innovation, you can have the eligibility check with a local account manager based in our regional offices. We have an addition for assistance to assist you in setting up your project, which is Partenariat Technologique International, which is basically a tool that enables to finance up to 50% of a consulting service cost in a limit of 25,000 euros if you're the leader of the consortium, or 5,000 euros if you're a participant, a French participant. And you can choose your expert, or we can recommend you a list that will be more tailored to the type of the project you are carrying out. Next slide, please. To get more in detail of the funding arrangement under the IDEMO number 2 project call, this is a mix of a subsidy and repayable advance. So the majority of the aid is in the form of a subsidy, and the rate of subsidy depends on the type of research you're carrying on. So depending on if the majority of the projects is of the type of industrial research, you will have 55% of your aid under the form of a subsidy. Otherwise, it will be 60% maximum in form of a subsidy. And we have, depending on the size of the French participant and on the type of research and the composition of the consortium, different maximum aid amount, aid rate that are applicable, shown in this table, and that you will have also on BPI France website dedicated, land page dedicated to IDEMO. So this is to highlight that the difference between IDEMO and the Aide à l'Innovation scheme is the type of funding you will find, mainly grants through IDEMO with its constraints, and mainly repayable advances and soft loans under Aide à l'Innovation. Thank you, that's all for me.
And I'm looking forward to welcoming many French participants in our Xccs projects. So next we have invited Finland also to present us their funding opportunities. Finland supports the Xccs cluster since a long time, and I would like to invite Kari Leino from Business Finland to tell us about the possibilities and the funding in Finland. Kari, please.
Thank you, Nadia, and thank you also, Ronan, for the presentation. It's always good to see what colleagues are doing. I'm Kari Leino feel a bit stupid repeating my name. It was just said, but anyway, I'll do it. Kind of a habit. I work as an ecosystem lead here in Finland, in Business Finland, for the electronic and digital platforms. Thank you for removing the echo. Nice. And I'll present you the guidelines of our Xccs funding. Next slide, please. And these are more like guidelines. We have a lot of rules and regulations, but as Groucho Marx is saying, if you don't like our principles, we have others. So quite a small amount of these guidelines are actually set in stone. We can always negotiate on certain things. We have a lot of consideration towards the participants and participation and the projects. And you should realize that while good projects are good projects, we are actually looking for what opportunities these projects will give to the companies that participate in that. And that is more like a good project for a good company in a good position to grow in the international market. That's the ideal setting here. So we don't really have any fixed calls. For example, we have continuous so-called continuous call where you can always submit an application into our funding. And well, we don't have a fixed allocation for the Xccs. That is because then we would need to set lower and higher or maximum and minimum limits that we don't want to do. And that goes for the number of projects as well. If there are good projects, a lot of good projects, we try to find ways to fund them all. And if there are just lousy projects, we don't fund them. That's basically quite simple. And for participation, one company is enough. If the project otherwise fulfills the Eureka regulations. But if there is an RTO in the project, then we expect the RTO to bring with the RTO, oh, well, if there are several, anyway, they should bring with them 3 companies into the consortium, so that, well, there's one is redundancy. If one drops out, 2 is still okay, but if there's just one RTO and one company, it looks like we are paying the company's research, and that's not really the good thing. The typical size for the project is something like from 1 to 5 million, and there's no real minimum size. But if you think that you have just one company and just one person participating for a 3-year project, so if your budget is less than 300,000, we start doubting that are you actually, do you want to do this? Are you kind of in it, or are you just going in for the fun? And then these projects also need to be a real collaboration efforts. They shouldn't be a collection of national projects. Next slide, please. This is a set of not even guidelines. This is a kind of an ideal size of the company and all that stuff that, according to our experience, if you're doing less than 2 million in turnover a year, it's not a good thing. You don't have the resources for this. But if you are a startup and you have a lot of cash in your bank account, then it's okay. I mean, then you have the funds for doing it. So it's not set in stone. We would also like the company to already have an export, something like 20% of the turnover, or at least 400,000 a year. That's because this is an international operation, and then you need to have international aspects in your business. And also we like to see more than 10 people being employed in that company. And of course, they need to have a positive own capital. That's kind of just filling up the slide with some texts here. And the ideal goals for a company is that the long-term target is that they could increase their turnover within 5 years after the project by 20% of our funding, so that the project's effect would be 20 times our initial stake in the company in the long run. And for a project's cooperation, we would like to at least 2 non-Finnish partners to benefit from the position of Finland, that the Finnish companies are there. It's not, again, a fixed rule. It's just what we want to have there, would like to see there. And also we would like to see a large enterprise there just for the fun of it, or just because they usually can open doors for the SMEs and give them credibility. And also we would like to have the research and technology organizations not taking up the whole budget, not even half of it, less than half of the budget, and that's okay. Thank you from my side. This was fun.
Thank you very much, Kari, for joining us and presenting us your funding possibilities. We have seen indeed in the past that Finland is quite flexible regarding the funding and looking for additional funding if needed, if there are really good projects. And also your conditions underline what we are looking for, because we are looking for mid-sized projects. So we are not looking that much for the small projects, 2 partners with a €2 million budget only. So it fits quite well to our cluster. Thank you very much, Kari. And as mentioned already in the beginning, it's an international network, and we are not only supported by countries all over Europe, and Canada is one of our supporters, and Kasturi from NRC IRAP will present us projects with Canadian participation, but also the funding opportunities in Canada. And due to the time difference, we have recorded his presentation, and let's listen now to his presentation.
Hello everyone, my name is Kasturi Narayanan, and I'm the Public Authority Representative promoting Xccs in Canada. Next slide. Canada is celebrating the 10th year of joining Eureka this year, and we are pleased to announce that we are now a full member. Eureka has been very beneficial to Canadian SME, and we have generated over 300 collaborative R&D projects with at least twice the number of international partners. The total project value stands at $545 million, and I believe this is just the beginning. Next slide, please. I would like to illustrate the strength of Canadian participation in Xccs and its predecessor programs with these 3 sample projects. The first project shown here is jointly funded by Canada and the Netherlands, and is related to the development of RF front-end modules. Here, the Canadian sub-consortium consists of 2 SMEs and 2 universities. The Dutch sub-consortium comprises of 1 SME, 1 MNE, and 1 university. The key thing here is that the technology providers and end users are working together to implement a novel solution for 5G. Next slide, please. The second project shown here is jointly funded by 4 countries and is related to the development of electronic design and automation tools for millimeter waves. Here, the Canadian sub-consortium comprises of 1 SME named SEMWorks, and the second SME is in the process of joining the consortium. This project demonstrates an even larger value chain with multiple multinationals, SMEs, RTOs, and universities. Next slide, please. The third project example with Canadian contribution is shown here. This project comprises of 4 multinationals, 6 SMEs, and 2 research institutions. The Canadian sub-consortium comprises of 2 SMEs, HealthTech Connects and Transion. In all the projects we have seen so far, we see the diversity of project topics under Xccs. While I can give you more project examples, the common pattern in all these projects is the creation of a new value chain. All these sample projects are upwards of 6 million euros in size, 3 years in duration, and targets mid to late TRL. All projects involve 6+ participants and involves a mix of multinationals, small and medium-sized enterprises, RTOs, and universities. It is of interest to us to generate more such strong projects. Next slide, please. The funding for Canadian participants in Xccs is available through NRC IRAP, my organization. The funding in Canada is available only for small or medium-sized enterprises. The program budget is $2 million per year. The contribution per firm could be up to $1 million over 3 years. And we are able to support a percentage of salary costs, contractor costs, and travel costs. Each consortium application is evaluated from 3 main perspectives: innovation, benefits to Canada, and added value through cooperation. To make a strong application, you may want to quantify the project goals. quantify the expected sales and jobs, and demonstrate a strong value chain that involves multinationals and/or end users. Your consortium ideally will have participation from more than 2 countries against 6+ partners and greater than 3 million euros in project size. Once your consortium application is selected by the committee, we will invite each Canadian SME for a national application right away. Your projects can expect to be funded and running by early 2024. Thank you for listening. I look forward to assisting you in consortium and project development. Hope to speak to you soon. Thanks.
Many thanks to Kasturi. Last but not least, I would like to invite Oscar Fernandez from Cdti in Spain to present us the support offered by Spain for Xccs project partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nadia. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. If you check the agenda, Juana, I'm not Juana Sanchez, I'm replacing my colleague Juana, who couldn't make it this time, but we didn't want to miss the chance to explain a little bit on the possibilities from the Spanish Innovation Agency, which is Cdti, and I will explain a little bit the main features. So in the next slide, please, we'll see a broad overview of Cdti. As I told you, we are the funding innovation agency in Spain, and I belong to the unit that is dealing the international cooperation program management. Juana and myself, we work for the Eureka platform, because one of the responsibilities or one of the goals of Cdti is to try to improve the competitiveness of our industry, as most of the speakers that you have heard before. So one of the ways to do it is by supporting international cooperation, and Eureka is probably the main program in our portfolio, apart from the framework program, which has a completely different way of management and different units involved. So in our case, Eureka and the clusters and Xccs is one of our priorities. It fits very well with Cdti. Why? Because we are completely open to all technologies. So we are using to support these projects our funding tool dealing with R&D. It means that we have an overall budget of 1 billion euros per year. So as it was previously mentioned by some of my colleagues, we don't have really any problems to support financially Spanish partners. And when I say partners, I mean companies. Our funding tool is focusing only on companies, and the rest of the entities, they will have to subcontract or self-fund. They should decide. But the message is that if the project is good and the Spanish task involves R&D, which is the main criteria, let's say in our case, we will be able to support, no matter if there are a lot of proposals that can be labeled by the cluster. So how we do support it? Well, we use our, as I say, our funding tool for R&D projects, which basically is a mix between a loan and a grant. And we can reach up to 85% of the budget. We will always try to reach the maximum limit that we have. In terms of the size of the projects, we have a limit below, less than 175,000 euros. Is not possible, but there is no upper limit. So this fits also very well with the cluster projects, mid-sized projects. We can support with no problems. Part of this money they will not have to pay back to us, but part yes. So in our case, the cluster projects, they get the best ratio in terms of repayable and non-repayable fund. And they will have to pay in 10 or 15 years, this repayable part. What we do is we basically wait for the support from the cluster, and in those projects where the label is obtained, we will tell them to submit the funding application. We will go in parallel into 2 different phases, the financial evaluation and the technical evaluation. As you can imagine, the financial evaluation is important if they have to pay back part of the money. So if the project lies within the typical R&D task, and we are talking about tier all 4 to 6, maybe 7. We will support it, and if the financial situation of the company is okay, we will give the green light. It's the only important thing you have to take into account in our tool. But if you have doubts, if you want to check out your proposal and understand the procedures, please, next slide. My suggestion is to contact my colleague Juana, who is the person in charge here at Cdti, and she will be very happy to support you. We have a lot of experience, and we are really looking forward to receiving your applications, ideas, proposals, or suggestions. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Oscar, for your presentation. And we have indeed made very good experiences with Spain, who is a very committed country and supports us since a long time. You will find all information about the supporting countries to the cluster Xccs on our website, and also links to the national websites where you will find more information about the specific rules. So we have now about 15 minutes for the Q&A session, and you are most welcome to raise your hand if you have any question, or use the chat box for questions you might have. And of course, also after this event, we will always be happy to support you if something is coming up. So I'm going to look to Patrick. Have we received questions already?
Yes, we do have some questions. Maybe the first one I will refer to Maud, or to you, because it's interesting for everybody. Can we have the recording and files for the presentation later after the presentation today?
Yes, so all of this will be available on our Xccs website, the presentations as well as the recording, and you will find the link on our Xccs website. This was also presented to you earlier and in our presentation.
Thank you. Another question is related to organization eligibility for funding. And the question goes like that. In order to be eligible for Xccs funding, is it required that the organization is eligible for Eureka funding at national level? And related question, are projects 100% funded, or are there different possibilities?
Yes, so this is, the eligibility is all according to the national rules from the country you are coming from. So this is why it is very important to contact your public authorities as soon as possible to check out whether you are eligible and what are the funding conditions. The amount of funding and the percentage of funding, again, follows the national rules.
Thank you. Another one regarding the contribution fees from partners to Xccs. How is it decided and based on what factors?
Yes, so the contribution fee, which I mentioned in the beginning, this is based on the funding received. So we ask all the public authorities once the project has started about the amount of funding. And then we charge currently a percentage of 1.7, so this might change year to year by 0.1, so it's not that high. We will charge you then after a year that the project has started, and in 3 parts. So we will not charge you everything in one go, but while the projects usually are for 3 years, so every year you will receive then an invoice from our side. So this is the way how the AENEAS office is finally financed.
Okay. Now a question which is a little bit of provocative one. So I'm going to, read it as it has been written, but I'm not necessarily endorsing what is written there. But anyway, and actually this is a question maybe our guests from the public authorities will be the best position to answer. So the question goes like that. As you know, small businesses have limited budgets, while large universities and research houses have an army of people to work on proposals. The outcome is that small businesses apply for a maximum of 1 proposal, while universities and the research applies for 2 to 4 projects. In the end, the probability is that small businesses is having low chance to win and then waits again for another year. What do you suggest to solve this problem of the number of submissions versus the chance of winning the proposal? Small businesses are a clear loser due to a mismatch in the number of submissions. So again, these are not my words. But I would like maybe to hear from either Kari, Kasturi, or Oscar on that one.
Can I start?
Yes, please.
I wouldn't look at the numbers. This is not a lottery. And as I tried to explain in the beginning, that we are looking at the companies, what the projects will, what possibilities the projects will give to the companies, what is the opportunities, what is the whole consortium, what are the new cooperation connections that start. That these projects can lead to a lot of good things in the future. So I would say that the SMEs have a better than average chance over the universities, at least in the case of Finland, to get the financing. So don't look at the numbers. They are not telling the whole picture. Thank you. Thank you, Kari. Oscar, would you like to add something?
Yes, if I may, it's more or less in line with the comments from Kari. It's not a lotto, and we treat individually its application. So as I explained, if we have a lot of good proposals, we will be able to. And in fact, it's not so positive to submit a lot of proposals because as I said, in our specific case, we perform a financial evaluation of the company. So if we receive a lot of proposals from the company, we are going to assume that probably some or all of them will be supported. So they will have to prove that they have the capacity, not only by human resources and technical capacity, but the financial capacity to do it. So it's not that good to submit a lot of proposals. Even if we have a technological center or a university, we will check that they will be able to perform their task. And if you have good proposals, but it's only one, is not a problem. It will probably be supported by Spain or another country because we don't interfere between the different applications. We just simply try to support the good ones.
Thank you very much, Oscar. And I think this is also another reason to work in close cooperation with your public authorities to make your project a success.
Maybe Ronan, if you want to add something.
Yes, I fully agree with what has just been said. In fact, we closely assess individual projects, and one of the key points is the quality of the project that is submitted and the plausibility of the economic transformation of the innovation. So no matter really, apart from the consortium composition and complementarity between the actors, knowledge provider, technology providers, and business enablers, is the complementarity of the consortium and the capacity of each participant, and for us, each French participants, to have the resources, thanks also to our aid or grant or repayable advance, to carry out the expenses that are necessary to deliver the innovation at the end of the project.
Okay, thank you very much. Now again, a question to you, Nadia. Very specific one, but interesting too. So I will incorporate a company in the first quarter of 2023 in the European Union and a possible joint venture with a UK SME. Is the program available for early stage startups? We will work on industrial Internet of Things, edge machine learning, and artificial intelligence with application in different industries.
Yes, so the program is completely open also to startups or young companies. I couldn't present you in detail the project Garnext, where even the leader was a spin-off from a university. But again, it is very important to contact your public authorities to see whether your company will be eligible for funding.
Okay, thank you. Another one, to what extent can funding be supplied for protecting intellectual property through intellectual property rights and for valorizing the developments, or is the funding restricted to scientific work?
Yes, so maybe this is also something rather to answer by the public authorities, by the countries who have joined us, maybe starting with Ronan.
Yes, IP acquisition cost can be part of eligible expenses, as well as other working costs, development costs, innovation costs. In experimental development, you can often have the need to acquire IP, and this will be eligible in the case of the consortium and the project for the needs of the delivering the innovation.
How does this work there?
In the case of Spain, for example, we have to check it case by case. But due to the regulation that we apply to our funding tools, we only fund R&D tasks. So other costs, apart of some very specific ones, are not included. And the ones that are closer to the market phase, and we will have to check it carefully, because it's not so clear that we will be able to fund the intellectual property of the development nodes. Another thing is license or IP dealing with the knowledge that is needed to develop the project. So that's what I say, we need to check it carefully.
Thank you, Oscar. Kari, anything you would like to add from the point of view of Finland?
Well, I must admit that I lost the ball here, because someone was saying that Business Finland's presentation was good in the chat, and that kind of, I fell into that thinking that I'm doing something good, and then next minute I fuck up by not listening the question. So can you please repeat the question?
The question was, to what extent can funding be supplied for protecting industry intellectual property through IP rights and for valorizing the developments?
The IP costs can be included when it's like patent searching, looking for the level of the state of the art, and for the filing costs also, but not for maintaining whatever rights. So not for the yearly charges and not for the official charges. But if you have a patent office writing your proposal, patent application, then those costs can be included, but none of the official payments.
Thank you very much, Kari. And as you can see, the rules are different from country to country. And this is, again, I can't repeat it often enough, that please contact your national funding authorities. So maybe, we have time maybe for one last question.
One last question. I think the answer will be fast, but this is again for you. Is there a statistics of labeled projects versus funded projects?
Yes, we have these statistics. And so for Penta, in the past, what we have done is that we labeled projects which had a very high chance of funding. So there it was about 100% of the labeled projects were also funded. We have changed this process a little bit now for Xccs. We have had only the first call, so we cannot say anything about the statistics yet for Xccs, but once a project is labeled, also the chances for funding are very high. Okay. So thank you very much, and also thank you for all your contributions with regard to the questions. So this is now, we are coming to the end of our webinar. We have prepared a little survey for you because we are interested in your feedback to our webinar to improve it also for next time maybe. And this short survey, it's only 4 questions. It will take you 2 or 3 minutes to answer them. At the end of this webinar, you will see the link to this short survey, but you also will receive this by email from our side. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for all who have participated and supported this webinar. And I wish you good success with all your projects to be submitted. And I'm looking forward to all your projects and maybe also meeting some of you at FX in Amsterdam. Thank you and have a nice day.